Well, we will be in a moment.
Is everything?
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't copy the couple of the wrong ones. Red.
Yeah, you can take a copy, Lynn.
Yeah, if I need it, I will.
Okay.
I know it's there.
All right, good evening, everybody. At this time, we'll call our meeting to order. Jamie, could you please read the Sunshine Statement?
Be advised that proper notice has been given by the Township Council in accordance with the Sunshine Law in the following manner. Notice advertised in the Burlington County Times and Camden Carrier Post on January 7th, 2021, and posted on the bulletin board on the same date. Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Jenny?
Here.
Ms. Pareo?
Here.
Mr. Lyon? Mr. Burrell?
Here.
Is he excused?
Yeah, he's not here, yes. He has a meeting.
He's excused.
Yep. Good to see everybody at our first official in-person work session. Haven't done this yet, so welcome aboard to the first work session in person. First up, we have our ordinances on second reading. This is Ordinance 2021-10, adjusting various salaries for certain employees. Can I get a motion in the second?
This is for the public.
Motion.
To the public. I forgot to put that there.
Second.
Okay, hold on. We have to open the floor first.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. We're going to just disregard that. We have to have a public hearing first. It's inadvertently missed. So can I get a motion and a second to open the floor to public comment first?
Motion. I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. We will now have an open floor for comment on Ordinance 2021-10. Anyone have any questions or comments? Seeing no questions or comments, I'll ask for a motion to close the floor.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The floor is closed. Now, at this time, I'll entertain motions and seconds for Ordinance 2021-10.
Motion. I'll second.
And Jamie, if you call the roll.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Jenny?
Aye.
Ms. Pareo?
Aye.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye. And just for the record, just keep the microphones lit. They're trying to get everybody for the folks who are streaming at home. It's not going to be loud in here, but they can hear us at home. And now we have ordinances on first reading. This is Ordinance 2021-13, establishing adult use cannabis is a conditional permitted use in certain areas here in Delran. Can I get a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
And Jamie, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Jenny?
Aye.
Ms. Pareo?
Aye.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye. And the ayes have it. That'll be on for second reading at our next public meeting. And next we have Ordinance 2021-14. This is to amend certain fees and taxes associated with the cannabis regulations. Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion. I'll second.
And Jamie?
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Jenny?
Aye.
Ms. Pareo?
Aye.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye. That ordinance carries, at least for the first reading. It'll be on second reading at our next meeting. And next up, we have our motions, seeking a motion authorizing,
Consent agenda.
sorry, moving ahead of myself. This time we have our consent agenda for Resolution 2021-07 all the way to Resolution 2021-13. Are there any objections to any of the items in the consent agenda? Seeing no objections, I'll ask for a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda in its entirety.
So moved.
Second.
And Jamie, if you call the roll, please.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Jenny?
Aye.
Ms. Pareo?
Aye.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye. The motion carries, and so do the resolutions there in the consent agenda. Next up, we have our motions, so I'll seek a motion authorizing the payment of bills and all purchases made under the cooperative purchasing agreement.
So move. Second.
Jamie?
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Jenny?
Aye.
Ms. Pareo?
Aye.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye. The ayes have it, the motion carries. And next up, I need a motion granting the mercantile license to Organic Version and CRC Auto.
Motion.
Second.
Jamie?
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Jenny?
Aye.
Ms. Pareo?
Aye.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye. And the motion carries. All right, now into our work session. We got a big agenda in front of us, so we'll get moving right away. First up, we have our open space tax, which we've talked about in nauseam, I think. The question now is just what amount do we want to use, and we just want to make sure we're all on the same page about that, because we then need to pass a resolution or ordinance to get this on the ballot. So we will do that, but
Ballot resolution.
Resolution to put it on the ballot, and we have until August 10th to submit it to the county so they can approve it, so it can be on the November ballot. So we have time, but
great.
these are a couple of things.
Wait, so I'll hand it off to Jeff in a second. The reason we brought this up now is that there was some discussion about using a rate instead of a flat amount. But as Jeff outlined for us, there's some concerns with that. So Jeff, if you just want to give us the elevator pitch.
Sure. Just a little quick history. In 2004, council adopted an ordinance to submit to the voters a proposition of the tax. In November 2004, the voters approved it for an annual levy of $325,000, not to exceed 20 years. March 2005, the township passed a resolution for dedication by rider. So 2024 is the last year we'll be receiving these funds. So to continue on, you'd have to follow the process. The concern, there was some conversation concerning about a tax rate, either doing 1 penny, 2 pennies, 3 pennies, something along those lines, rather than a fixed number. But one of the problems you run into, and I think we're going to run into it in the next couple of years, is if you do a revow or a reassessment, you're going to end up collecting too much money. You're going to have a hidden tax unless you specifically do something before that time. And I found an article, 50 towns made a mistake and overtaxed their people because they had that and didn't make an adjustment. So unless you're 100% sure when the time comes that you're going to catch it and make an adjustment on the year a reassessment is done, you may be better off with a flat rate rather than the tax rate going to penny or 2 pennies or 3 pennies. And I can't imagine with the value, the way the market's going with houses, our ratio is going to be dropping. It's going to be dropping pretty significantly, where you're going to be in a position of having to do something in the next couple of years, either a reassessment again or a revow. So it's something you're just going to have to be careful of. And if you want to do a hard number, I mean, right now you're collecting $325,000. One of the ideas, $400,000, the difference of $75,000 would be more than eaten up by the new construction that you have going on in the next 2 years. By the time you get to 2024, all you need is 200 units at $250,000 each, and you'll more than exceed the dollar amount that would increase, so that no one feels an increase. And I think by 2024, there's no doubt we're going to have more than 200 units at $250,000 each. So if you wanted to go keep it basically at the same level that you're at now, you could go to 400,000 easily.
Great.
Yeah, question.
Go ahead.
So that 400,000 would be a flat number, not based on the value of the home or any of that. That would be split up by all the residents. Is that correct?
Well, you pay a tax based on the value of your home. What you'd be collecting is a flat figure, which is 400,000. Essentially, people would not be paying more. By the time 2024 comes, no one's going to be paying more, right, than they're paying now.
And just so that we all understand, so there currently is this tax, and rather than it stopping, and then we have to figure out another way to save the last of the open space, it would just continue on. So there would really be no change in the tax. It would just be that we would continue to collect it and then start leveraging it against what's left. Right. Okay.
And the history here has been to try to leverage the open space tax with grants, which we've been very successful at, leveraging it with the county grants and Green Acres grants in the past. It allows us to do things in the parks and acquire land. So yeah.
That makes sense. And the whole, we were at 320 before, but if we go to the 400, there would be no tax increase to the residents, right? It would be around $11, plus or minus.
It would be basically the same $11.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, I think we have to increase the amount anyway, because what was what you could buy with $300,000 20 years ago, you can't buy with now, right? So I think we're,
Our amount that we're raising through the open space tax is one of the smaller you're gonna see in the county, or in the state. If you take a look at what some of the towns are raising as a dollar figure, it's very small, 325, and so would the 400,000 be a small number.
what's the other, what, do you have any other examples of what other towns are?
I didn't bring them with with me, but I mean, there are towns that are doing, where it impacts the property owners by like $100 a year, and we're at 11.
Yeah, I don't know if any of us have that appetite. But I think it's gotta be more than what we're talking about currently, right? I mean, nothing gets cheaper, unfortunately, so that's the, the cost of doing business. So does anyone have any thoughts?
I think Jeff's laid it out very well. I mean, in order to protect the residents' tax bill, which is important, of course, to continue to get open space, which we certainly want to do, and it's in a way that is measurable, instead of just percentages. And I can see where down the road when these homes come up, that percentage would start to impact people. So I think Jeff's approach is a good one.
Yeah. Well said. All right, everybody good with going with that approach?
Absolutely.
400,000.
Yep. Great. Awesome. That was easy enough. Great. Thank you, Jeff, for putting that together.
We'll prepare it and submit it so you can look at it.
Yeah, that'd be great. And then we have till August 10th, right? So we got some time.
You have it.
Okay, great. Next up, Jeff, you're gonna take lead here with some trash contract. This is pretty lengthy.
Okay, first of all, the current trash contract ends on September 30th, 2021. We'd like to get, if possible, authorization to move forward tonight, if not at the July meeting at the latest, because we'd like to get the specs out and back by August 17th, which would give us a month and a couple of weeks before the end of the contract. So if there is any transition with the bidding, that we'll have some time to adjust to it. And if that were to happen, there's a lot of planning that has to take place. The decisions, it's a public bid, but the decisions you need to make are, number one, the length of the contract. In the specifications that I gave you, I suggested 5 years. If you're uncomfortable with that, you could do a 3-year with 1 year, 2 1-year options. I wouldn't go any less than that because of the commitment that a trash hauler has to make in order to get the equipment and the manpower in place. If you go any shorter, you're not going to get competitive bids. It's just not going to happen because they're not going to be interested. No one's going to go out and buy new trucks for a 1-year contract. Secondly, with respect to the contract, we don't need to make the decision tonight, but almost assuredly, I think we should change the collection. As much as I hate to do it because it always causes a little bit of confusion, but the Tuesday pickup is about 3 times as many homes as either the Monday, Thursday, or Friday pickup. And I think we need to spread it through 5 days. We can write the specifications one of 2 ways. We can either say over 5 days and indicate where it's going to be, or have some language that we would make that final decision after the receipt of the bids. The reason, there's a couple reasons. Tuesday pickup, number one, is so heavy that they end up having to send 3 trucks in here. The current trash company has had truck orders in for over a year, has not received them. As everybody knows, the supply chain for a lot of equipment is really bad. They don't expect to receive them until the 3rd quarter of this year before they get them. It's one of the problems. They bought all of their equipment apparently 10 years ago. It's all going bad at the same time. Not great planning. So they do have some new equipment coming in. Anybody that knows what's going on with CDL drivers and the county recycling program can see also what's impacting the trash collection industry from that perspective is they're having a difficult time with their labor force and keeping them. So those are probably the 2 biggest items you need to make a decision on is do you want to go to 3-year with 1-year options or a 5-year contract? That's number one, and then number two, do you want the bid to specifically designate where those 5-day pickups will be, or do you want to wait until after the bids come in and kind of negotiate with the company on that?
Jeff, is there a price, if we did the 3-year versus the 5-year, would there be any significant price changes?
I don't think you're gonna see a significant price change. What you're gonna see is getting your socks knocked off no matter what we do. The prices are coming in unbelievably high. We're paying about $5.15 per household. The average is in like $8.80 on all per household. The numbers are through the roof. Competition is down. We have one of the trash haulers in the area is going belly up and just bought out by another company. It's not one of the ones that we've dealt with. And my understanding is Waste Management, who's the other competition, hasn't been bidding during COVID. I don't know if that's going to change. And you need that competition to try to keep the numbers down. So I would not be shocked if the same bidder comes in. But again, it's a public bid. Anybody can bid on it. But you can expect that the number's going to go up no matter what happens based on what we're seeing all throughout the state. In fact, by way of an example, one of the towns, a subject we'll discuss later, but the American Recovery Act, one of the towns up in North Jersey put their trash out to bid at the middle of last year, and the rate went up so high, they're submitting for, and they've been told by the state that they'll probably get approval on it, but that increase as part of the dollars they'll get back because it was impacted by COVID. And COVID has impacted the trash industry pretty significantly.
Yeah.
So it's not good news.
No,
There's no good news there.
no. I mean, my thoughts are, before I, see the thoughts of council, but I think we should, stay with the 3 and then do the extension, because if the market does correct itself in 3 years, hopefully, maybe we can jump back and rebid it, right? Rather than lock us in the 5 years when it's potentially,
That makes sense.
yeah.
I think also, I'd rather do it quickly sooner than later because other people are having the same conversation.
Yeah.
So I'd rather get our people in there, or get our bid in, on our opportunity to bid in there and be one of the early ones.
Yeah, the longer it's out there, the more people will have an
Competition,
opportunity to
yeah.
get it, to compete
Yeah.
for it, if there's gonna be competition. I hope there is. I mean, we've never not had competition, but I have to be honest with you, in the last couple bid cycles, no one's been within $100,000 of the current trash contract.
Yeah, that's crazy. So I think we'll do the 3 with the extensions, and then your other question was regarding the dividing up the trash.
Yeah.
I mean, is there benefit to bid it like that, or can we just do it later on?
Other than it's a clearer picture, I know the current, I don't think, no matter who wins, they're gonna want to do this, so I don't think it hurts after the fact. I know the current company would want to get it done. And I think I put in my memo, one of the issues is that if there's a Tuesday miss and they're not in town Wednesday, they're reluctant to send a truck out on Wednesday and come back and pick up, an odd street, or because they're not in town and they've got to send a separate truck. If they're in all 5 days, that it's not an issue for them. They would just send a truck back to that area. And I think we're still going to be in that kind of climate for the rest of the year until they get their new trucks.
Yeah.
Just for councils, if I could just show everybody the map. So yellow is Tuesday, green is Monday, Thursday is purple, and Friday is red. So you can see yellow is huge. It's an incredibly large chunk of town. And then, would you say they use one truck for the rest
They
of
use,
3 for
mostly they use
Tuesday?
one truck for the rest of the week, and then on Tuesdays, they send in 3 trucks. So if they have a breakdown, number one, it gives more of an opportunity for a breakdown because you got 3 different trucks in town.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah, I mean, I think it eventually has to get divided up. I mean, I know there's going to be some political backlash with it, but it makes logically. I mean, it makes sense. But I mean, I always approach things with as much flexibility as possible. So I mean, if we don't have to put it in the bid, maybe just to keep it open ended, and we can have a discussion about it. I mean, knowing we're going to go there anyway. But.
Yeah, I think what I'd like to do is at least have language in there saying that they'll help, or they will participate in the advertisement, of the change of
Yeah.
the routes.
I think they probably know the routes and how to establish them, how
Yeah.
to evaluate them more than we do, so get them involved in
Yeah.
setting up the routes afterwards, right?
If I just could add that there's one issue with one of the roads is not included, and we're trying to get, in the current map. So we're making an adjustment on that. We're just waiting for the trash company to get back to us with some details about one side of the street or the other, which day it's collected, so that we can update this map. But we're
Great.
working on that.
And that map's online.
Oh, yeah.
Great.
In the public works section.
Great, cool. And Jeff, the only other thing, if you don't have any other items with the trash, was I had a question regarding the missed locations provision. It's 5.2.14. Is there any, like, right now, I guess this as reads as we currently have it, that they're on, we can find them after we report them missing a collection. Is there any way, and Sal, I don't know if this is even possible, but, you know, I think they should be on constructive notice that they missed the trash, and then that should start the 24 hours when they're supposed to pick it up, right? Because we've had the issue before where through some gamemanship, they can, you know, miss a whole section of street. It's their burden, but they have to wait for Jeff to come into the office at 9 o'clock the next day and make a call, and then that starts the 24 hours, which can blend over in almost two days after the missed collection. Now, I don't know if that's gonna, you know, make them upset that they won't bid or anything. Maybe Jeff, or you have some thoughts on that?
I mean, I don't know about the legality of it, if it's legal, and
I think
one
it's
thing
safety. I'd have a tough time defending it. But, to be honest with you, I mean, until we give them notification, I hear what you're saying, like, we could write it up that way, but I'd have a tough time defending it.
What, I can tell you what's there is a pretty big hammer. I mean, they're
Okay.
already not happy with me. We've already fined them over $28,000 this year, which is like 10% of their total contract.
Good. Well, they shouldn't
There's
miss
still,
miss collections.
you know, I still have
It's very simple.
$13,000 out there kind of hanging to say, if you straighten it out, you know, maybe we won't apply
Yeah.
this one, but.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it can't be defended, then it won't be defended, but, I mean, you know, and one of our simple services here, all this other stuff I think is minutia at a certain point, but literally trash is what people care about, right? I mean, that's literally like one of the primary services we have to deliver, and if we can't deliver and they can't deliver, then, you know, that makes all of us look bad, and rightfully so, the residents should be upset. So we will continue to find them when things are missed. I know they've worked with us, and Jeff said they brought in some new management. They're moving in the right direction, which is good. So we'll just stay on top of it. That's all I had. Is there anything else with trash specs?
Can we get an authorization to go to bid tonight?
Sure. Is that a motion or a resolution? Jamie?
We've always done it by motion.
Okay.
Sounds okay with
Yeah,
it.
motion.
Okay.
Give me a support.
Can I just get a motion to authorize the bid for the trash contract?
I'll make a motion. Second it?
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion carries. Jeff will get that bid out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff and Sal. This is like 40 pages.
Yeah. Well, plenty of recycling this week anyway.
All right, next up we have the River Drive Berm. I don't know if this is a Jeff or Jim conversation.
Well, I guess we just want to update you. We did hear back from Army Corps a few months ago. That's like days in Army Corps time. But they said we passed the initial public interest review, and it's going to be heading into like a feasibility and design phase. This is for an application we put forward to the Army Corps of Engineers for stabilizing the berm along River Drive. There's residents along the River Drive have complained, and we see it about erosion that has occurred over time that's brought in the berm and reducing its effectiveness as to keeping the high tide waters of the river from encroaching into the neighborhood. So the good news is that the Army Corps has agreed that the project is necessary and it's public interest. They do require a cost share moving forward. I have to have a meeting with them to go over the details. That was the last email I have from them, saying that they're going to set up a meeting to go over what the next phases are. They quoted some numbers that Delran's cost share could be anywhere from, 100 to 200,000 plus. So that's something we would have to talk about. There are opportunities that we could get from the state to pay for a portion of that. We have applied before to what's called a shore protection program through the DEP. That could, and they've already acknowledged willingness to support this project, but all their money year over year goes to Army Corps funded projects. So now if Army Corps is, part of this project, it's a good chance we can get them now to make up their cost share. And then I think they fund up to like 65, 75% of that. So our percentage will just continue to drop. There's really no action I think we need at this time. I just need to meet with them, find out what's going on, and I would imagine hopefully by the next budget cycle, we'd have more firm numbers on what, what they'll be looking for from the township side. It's good.
That's great news.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But we have, there's two things down there. We got the homes, as Virginia was telling me the other day about, the residents who are concerned, and then second is the sewer plant, right? So
Yeah.
There's two big hitters down there,
Plus the new trail the client just put into.
Yeah. So there's a lot going on down there. So it's good. This has been long before my time here. They've been working on this. So
Yeah.
Great work trying to secure that. So so that's obviously not something that's going to happen tomorrow, but
I'll just keep you updated as soon as I have a meeting. I'll reach out with them tomorrow and try to get a meeting sooner rather than later.
Okay. But then that'll be for next budget cycle.
Yeah, I believe you budgeted a certain amount of money a long time ago, but we just never needed it because they never heard from them. I don't know.
It was in the capital, which is only a planning document, so the
Okay.
money's not really there. We would have to do it, if it needed to take place this year, we'd have to do a capital budget amendment because the budget's been adopted, but it's something we can certainly do.
Okay. Right. So I'll set that meeting up, and Jeff, I'll let you know when we can report back when we get more information.
Hopefully they move at normal people speed.
Yeah, I mean, obviously COVID didn't help the timeline. They're already slow timeline.
Great. Well, thanks for staying on top of that, Jim. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, next we have our annual sewer contracts. I know there's some CME letterhead here, so Jeff, you want Jim to talk about it?
Let Jim start.
Yeah, so we put out periodically maintenance contract for the sewer department. One contract is for electrical contractor, one's for a mechanical contractor, and one's for basically emergency maintenance on the sanitary sewer system. It's just like an excavator and a general contractor. We received bids on June 4th or June 2nd. The electrical contract and mechanical contract, municipal maintenance bid on that one, they were the only bidder. And for the emergency repair contract, that was Mac Rose Contractors. We've worked with those two contractors on these contracts previously. There were only one bidder for each of the contracts, but their numbers came in relatively consistent with the previous contracts. Obviously with some increase in cost, but I mean, we bid them out like every 3 years, so the increase in cost seems relative to just general cost of living inflation. So we would recommend award to the two contractors, the three different contracts, respectively. So yeah, Macros is great, and municipal maintenance is great.
Yeah, I think the memo said too, right? We've worked with these guys.
Yeah, we've worked with them, we're happy with their work, and it's one of the few bids that the bid isn't actually the number that you end up paying. It's basically pricing out everything. It depends on how much work, because if you looked at the two of them together for municipal maintenance, it would be well over $100,000. We spent $61,038 last year for those two areas, and Macros we spent $48,749. So usually it comes in significantly lower than what the bids are cumulative of about everything we could do if everything went wrong. So
yeah. It's basically a time and materials. We're getting established unit prices for certain labor and equipment to do certain tasks, and then it's like an on-call basis. So I think you award year one with an understanding of 2 1-year options after that.
Okay. And
then we're just gonna put it on the
Great.
calendar. Keep. What generally happens is we just always award the first year and then just use the contract all 3 years because it sometimes works out well.
Good.
But,
Okay. So is this for the, we'll award this at the public meeting?
Yep.
yeah.
Okay. Any questions from council? Great. That was easy enough. Great. So next up we have Potential appointments for Green Team. We won't be making these now, but just for folks to consider. Bill Kersey, who was the former chair, right? Chairman of the Green Team has resigned, so he's on to different things, but we thank him for his years of service. I don't know, I mean, he's been on there for,
He
I mean,
basically was,
since the
when it
beginning.
became the green team, I
Yeah.
think he was the guy that drove that ship.
Yeah, he's been driving it for a while, so
Yeah.
he's no longer on the Green Team, so there's an opportunity for the mayor to appoint to that, and council has an open appointment as well. Deb has, I think it's in the next page, sent over a couple names for us to consider. That doesn't have to happen tonight, but I do know Emily Klein. I've seen her at some of the events, and she's, I don't know, for the folks on Facebook and social media, she's handling the Green Team social media, so they're all over social media, so she's doing a great job. So I think that would be a great appointment. I don't know Rob, but if he's endorsed by Deb, I'm sure he's going to be perfect for them. So just for something to consider, we can,
Why would we wait? Why would we put it off?
or if everyone's comfortable doing it now, we can.
Well, I mean, if there's a reason to put it off, that's fine, but
Yes.
if not, I mean, if they're giving a recommendation, I
Yeah.
think that's.
Well, I'm good to move. That's the best thing you said all night. If council's okay with that, is everyone all right? We'll
Yeah.
do, we can only appoint Emily Klein, so we'll appoint.
Actually, I wanted to appoint him.
They just,
Either
well,
one.
we get to move first, so we'll
Oh.
take Emily Klein. We could do a motion for that, Jamie? Okay, and then the mayor can appoint who he sees fit for the second spot. So I'll ask for a motion to appoint Emily Klein to the Green Team for a term to expire 12/31/2021, is that right?
21, yep.
When's the other appointment open or expired?
Motion.
Thank you. And a second, please?
Second.
Do you need a roll call? Or?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? The motion carries. Thank you very much. And Emily, congratulations. We will let Deb know. Awesome. Thank you guys for doing that. All right. And next up, we have 2 items for Lynn. So Lynn, I'm going to actually turn it over to you if you don't mind.
I will.
First up, we have our board liaison, boards of education, I should say. Liaison, and second is the committee to study the holidays. So if you want to loop them together.
Sean, we'll take part of that first. I talked to the mayor, I talked to the president of council. One of my interests being on council is to establish an improved relationship with the Board of Education. Not that it's bad, but we really don't have anyone speaking with Dr. Burchell right now. I think there's a lot that we could do to share information. Maybe there's things we can do to save money somewhere for residents. But I think just to communicate, to let them know what council's doing, not confidentially, and then for them to share a little bit what's going on with the school district. We should have good, solid relationships. They're teaching our young people, and it's one of the most important organizations in town. So I will meet with Dr. Burchell, and we'll start to establish communication. The second item is committee to study holidays, and really it's not exactly the title I would have chosen. Excuse me, Tyler, but
It's all right.
my interest is this. We have a lot of minority groups in town. We have a large Turkish population. We have a Portuguese population. We have other people in town who don't necessarily celebrate Christian holidays or celebrate cultural holidays that are attached to the Christians. For example, the tree lighting. We call it a holiday lighting, but it's a Christmas tree. And that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. We have a Easter egg hunt. That's obviously a cultural but also a religious holiday. And I think that some other religions may feel offended and insulted the fact that we are not publicly recognizing some of their important holidays or some of their important cultural dates. It doesn't have to be a religious holiday. It could be just a cultural date that they celebrate. The end of Ramadan it's a big thing. It's a big feast at the last day, because during Ramadan, they don't eat all day long until the evening time. So what I'd like to do is establish a group where we can meet with the leaders of some of the organizations in town, the Turkish organizations, and maybe synagogue and settlements, and maybe some other churches, maybe the Calvary, and different places like that, and just look for also for cultural organizations that not necessarily maybe religious. And number one, as I said to Tyler, maybe some people don't have holidays they wish to celebrate. But I think it'll go a long way to let them know that we are a community and we care about them by at least approaching them and talking to them about establishing something where we can recognize their culture in some way publicly. That's about it.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think the board, talking with Lynn, offline before tonight, by no means are we endorsing any of the activity the Board of Education makes, but, we have great relationships with the fire department, the police department, obviously, and EMS, some of them are separate entities. And I think it's appropriate that we do start to build a better relationship with the Board of Education. Lynn has served on the Board of Education for many years and probably knows it better than anyone at this table for sure, and can definitely have that dialogue with them about what's going on here, especially with upcoming developments, what the impact is with them, right? We do speak with Brochel every once in a while. He reaches out, but I think it'd be great if there's some formal setup going on so we can work on that communication. I think there's nothing wrong with communication. It goes a long way.
I certainly wholeheartedly agree with that. Lynn and I have talked offline, and we've talked about the mosque, we've talked about the Turkish community, the Brazilian community, and we certainly have connections. I'd love to be part of that committee.
Absolutely, that'd be great.
That would be. I can make some connections for sure.
Great. So, any thoughts, questions from council? Everybody good? Great. We just need a shake of a head to do all that? Nothing's formal, right? Okay.
It's an ad hoc committee.
Okay. All right. Well, Lynn,
Thank you.
get to work.
No problem.
Thank you for taking lead on that.
Yes,
No,
sir.
it's all good stuff. We appreciate it. All right. Awesome. Thank you, Lynn. Next up, we have our responsible bidder ordinance. There's a draft ordinance in front of you. Sorry, there was no supporting documentation besides the ordinance. This is the draft one. Just by way of background, this ordinance, essentially, other towns have adopted this, Morristown and Mount Laurel, in particular in Burlington County. Monroe, I think, is this copy here. This was attempted in 2013, I believe it was, but it wasn't allowed by law. Now, currently, with the current administration, 2 years ago, they passed a law, I believe, that allows essentially what is in front of us. The state law is very similar to this in a lot of respects. We're just kind of endorsing it and putting it into our code books. I'll let Sal confirm what I'm saying, but
Yeah, we if I can just jump in, Mr. President. So we actually looked recently that Middle Township in Cape May County adopted a similar ordinance, actually faced a court challenge, and it was upheld by the courts. So I think there previously was a change, but now it's approved. Obviously you want to mirror state law, you don't want to contradict state law, and certainly be preempted by state law, but it seems to be in this format it's working.
great. Thank you for that
I
research.
could just add, so that folks know what this is about. Basically, it's saying that any construction project that's over $250,000 would have to be done by people that weren't, in essence, learning on the job or day laborers. It would have to be people that went through some sort of an apprentice program, some sort of formalized training, and that would not give the construction office grief, because we certainly don't want to do that. But I agree with this. I think it's smart. When you're talking about saying a sign or something, it's a different story. But the bigger construction projects that we do, we just want to make sure that it's not done by people who aren't experienced and have some level of expertise.
The interesting I thought was that it requires the establishment of an apprentice program, though, which, does that drive the cost up on jobs?
I mean, it could, but I mean, most of the bidders that you're talking about would already have those in place.
The larger bidders on big
And
projects.
don't we pay prevailing wage anyway, right?
We pay for
Yeah.
it.
So not
Yeah,
really.
so it doesn't, that's the only
Yeah.
question
No.
I thought of. But otherwise, I mean, all the reasons for it seem pretty solid.
Yeah, and frankly, a lot of this mirrors the state law. So as Jeff put, most of the people who would bid on these type of projects already have these programs in place because they're bidding for state contracts and federal contracts and things. So it really doesn't box anybody out. It's just making sure, as the mayor put kind of a baseline of, hey, this is what's acceptable, and anything above that, we're okay with. So glad we,
Rising tide.
yeah.
They may not have done that when they did the HVAC here, right?
That was long before this
26 years
ordinance.
ago or
That's what I
something.
mean.
Yeah.
Probably-
There's-
probably didn't have that.
There's only one setting, ice
Why are you
or
complaining?
heat. Yeah. We're in the ice section right now. Thank you very much. By the way, if you can see your breath, it's working perfectly. Holy mackerel.
All right, great. So if there's no other questions or thoughts with that, we'll put it on our next. Can we put it on our next agenda?
Yeah, I mean, this has to be
Yeah.
somewhere
yeah.
in our ordinance.
Yeah, well, I mean, we can take care of it. We'll
Yeah.
format it.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
we'll do it.
Great.
And it does say in here that it has to be approved by the
DCA.
Department of Community
Yeah,
Affairs,
yeah,
okay.
so we can submit to them, so.
The state
Okay,
always
so
has to
after
get
first
involved.
reading
Yeah,
is
we'll-
when we submit it to them,
We'll
okay.
format it, do the first reading, send DCA,
Okay.
you know, we'll go
Okay.
from there. So, yeah, we'll format it.
Okay, great. Awesome. And we'll keep rolling down our list. Next up, we have our towing contract. It seems pretty straightforward. This is from Jamie. Jamie, do you want to give us a quick update?
You know
or
what, I didn't
can
have a
sum-
chance to talk to the chief about it, to see if there was any,
We don't have an objection
Yeah.
to
no,
extending it.
so just extend it 1 year, we can do that at the
Great.
public meeting. And then this will be the last year, so next year we'll have to go to bid.
Okay, great. Not a problem, so we'll put that for the public. Great. I was actually, had my tow, I got in an accident a couple years ago, and I went to their facility, so they towed my car in Hainesport.
Oh,
They
yeah.
service Hainesport, so it's a good facility. All right.
Sorry about the car.
Yeah, the car's good.
Had a good
Yeah,
experience.
yeah. No, they're very nice people over there, so. Great. Okay, next up we have, there's no memo on it, but we have some summer camp discussion, so I'm gonna either have the mayor or Jeff touch base with what's going on here. Or would you like me to?
Well, I think you had some revised
Yeah.
information on that.
Well,
I don't,
I think the question is, so they're planning the summer camp for, the REC is planning the week-long summer camp. Jeff found some guidance on what has to happen for summer camps, and it's not very, naturally, it's not very, it doesn't map very well to what we're trying to do. And that's just the nature of the business. The state can't write guidance for every individual niche need out there. So the question for us, I think, is, are we comfortable allowing summer camp to happen? Are there any guidance? I mean, we don't have an exhaustive list in front of us, but what is our comfort level with the summer camp with kids in this, post-COVID world we're in right now? So that's kind of where we're at. I don't think Jeff may be able to explain it differently. There is no possible way for us to follow the letter of the guidance completely. So I think we all just have to.
To me, it almost becomes a COVID camp. The kids have to be educated, the staff has to be educated on COVID, they have to be separated, they're not supposed to be doing activities where they breathe hard, where any droplets can come out. If there's a group of kids and a staff member that's overseeing them, they're supposed to keep them basically segregated from another group. They're supposed to be staggered drop-off times. To me, it makes it difficult to do it properly. Vaccinated people are fine outside without masks. Unvaccinated, it gets a little rough. There's a lot of training that the person running the camp would have to do with respect to COVID education and training her staff prior. And it talks about contacting the campers in advance in regard to educating them on what's going to be taking place. So it would be a little bit more of a lift than we've had in previous years with regard to running the camp.
What do we do at summer camp? What is it involved? What activities?
It used to be at Conroe Park, but it's now at.
They do like arts and crafts
Arts and
stuff.
crafts.
They
Yeah.
run around. My kids attended, and
Yeah.
it seems impossible to get done if there's all these restrictions. Takes the fun out of it.
One of the other things that looked a little bit problematic to me, and it would really be how much people want to get into this whole COVID defense kind of mechanism. is that you have to keep people separate from the campers. And Jake's Place is basically where they ran it, and that park's still open to the public even when they do the camp. I believe it was, right? I believe in the past, I mean, we don't close down Jake's Place, it's the campers kind of use the areas that are under shelter and the tent covers, things along those lines.
I mean, are these kids playing in recess at school? I mean, Virginia, do you happen to know? I mean, what are these?
They just started to, at the middle school, being able to share a ball. Before they couldn't touch the same ball. They had to play only like kickball and then try to kick the ball into a net as opposed to throw it at somebody or catch a ball. They couldn't do any of that. Could only use your feet. Now,
About 12 and
another-
under. Are they 12 and under?
no, this is at the middle school and high
Okay.
school, but since the vaccine isn't even available to those
Yeah.
children at that age, so they're not gonna be vaccinated going to camp. So the restrictions are even gonna be more intense, I believe, right?
I mean, what I'm struggling with is, I mean, there are going to be restrictions, but I mean, people are doing other things. You know what I'm saying? So I know other camps, other towns are having similar camps. So how are they doing it?
And they're playing
If we
sports.
can't, yeah, they're playing contact
The
sports
travel
and things.
teams are all playing sports, they're all breathing on one another. It just seems like there's different guidelines for different activities. Like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
school
there is.
was more restricted than a travel team, like the high school soccer team was more restricted than a travel team.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know why, but.
Yeah, that's the struggle with it. I mean, I don't know what everybody's thoughts are. I would like to see the camp to happen because we're at that point where we didn't do the what is it called, the night out, and I think people are itching for something to do, and I know the kids really enjoyed this camp. I know I did when I was younger. It was something to do, but maybe we have to, my understanding is Colin and Eva who run the camp are willing to do whatever it takes to get it done. So if there are restrictions, maybe there are restrictions that have to be put in place.
Are the guidelines published somewhere so they can be released?
And when is the camp happening? Because maybe the guidelines will even change
Right.
more so by then. There'll be,
I think it's when is
Second
it?
week of August?
Yeah, it's August something.
Oh, is
yeah.
it just 1 week?
yeah, the
this
numbers
year?
could be
Sure,
going
it's
down
in
since
They used to
summer.
Is
be
it just
two
1
weeks.
week? It used to be 2.
Yeah.
It used to be 2. Yeah, it starts at the second week of
It's
August.
usually-
First or second?
I think it's the first, I mean, I thought it was the first 2 weeks in August.
Look, we just communicate to them and say, hey, look, here are the guidelines that have to be followed. If you think you can implement this, go
Yeah.
ahead. However, you are responsible. Sal, what
Yeah, can we waive liability on that?
No, I mean, I don't know that anyone, in terms of liability, I don't know that there ever could be a causation between somebody contracting with COVID. I mean, that's one of the problems from the beginning has been contact tracing and where do you get it from and how do you know? I mean, you have two people next to each other breathing the same stream, one gets it, one doesn't. I mean, it's just so, for that to connect the dots and connect that chain to say that this council made a decision that jeopardized some child's life, I mean, I think it's so attenuated, you're not gonna be able to connect the
do they
dots.
sign an agreement to hold these summer camps? Taking liability, insurance, all that?
I don't know if they did the last camp, but they used to, yes.
Yeah,
As a parent, you just go and sign them in. Like, I don't
Yeah, I
know
mean,
if
it's
the
a pretty-
parent signs, anything.
Currently, or at least in the past, it wasn't like a pre-registration thing. It was kind of ad hoc. You could come one day, you could come once, you come 5 times, whatever you wanted to do. But there was like a check-in and check-out process. But perhaps they have to make it more pre-registration, so there's some.
If you follow the guidelines and they're guidelines, but if you follow these guidelines, I mean, it's gonna be, I think it's gonna be difficult because they're so severe.
Mhm.
And it puts a lot of pressure on the person running the camp. I mean, there's a lot of educating of the staff, and she's got it. To me, it looks like the unfun camp. It really does. It looks like COVID education camp. But, if they're willing to take it on and they think they can do it.
Yeah.
I don't think there's even these kind of restrictions for daycare.
I know, well, that's right. Yeah.
If we do the precautions that they took throughout, I mean, I know they said about if they're vaccinated, they can prove they're vaccinated. If you're not, you wear a mask, they take your temperature. I think we're getting a little they're guidelines, right? They're not
Yeah.
law,
Mandates.
you know? There's no, let's see if I got phone light transmission. Oh, God, I love that. It's good to listen to the COVID updates from Dr. Conaway. You know, surfaces is not how it's transmitted. So unless they're breathing on one another, if they're kicking a ball, it's the same ball and they're touching that ball. That's not how it's transmitted. You know, I would say that if we set up guidelines for these folks, that you know, these are the guidelines, try to do as much of this as we can. Take the temperature, not that, I don't think that matters, because, you know, when people have had COVID, they didn't have a temperature, you know, so they were diagnosed with it. So, you know, what can we do to protect the children? I think that's probably going to fall into the parents' purview. Frankly, you know, if they are vaccinated, if the kids are vaccinated, and there's certainly now, there's plenty of opportunity. Is it still at 12 and older?
Yeah.
The
And-
camp kids won't be vaccinated, they're not, I think
Are
they can
they
only
under
be up,
12?
it's either 9 or 10.
So
Yeah,
they
they only
won't
go
be
Yeah.
till a
vaccinated.
certain age,
So
that's
they
what I
will
was saying, they're
definitely
not gonna be
The
vaccinated.
staff may be,
Right.
because I know some,
I think it's more incumbent, it's going to be incumbent upon the people who are running the show,
Right.
is more than themselves, to be responsible to implement the guidelines.
Yeah.
That's what I was wondering, if they have a contract saying that they accept responsibility and have insurance.
I don't know, I mean,
Are
I
these
know there's the standing
volunteers
ovation.
or paid or?
I know the Standing
camp.
Ovation Theater Company has camp starting in a couple of weeks that, you know, they have kids singing and all, you know, so the kids are doing stuff, you know what I'm saying, and they're itching to get out, and by no means.
The guidelines even talk about keeping the kids apart when they sing,
I know.
cough, or chant.
I know, it's just, you know, by no means is anyone at this table anti-COVID or anything like that, you know, but there's certain precautions now that I think we're a society, we understand, we understand the science now to a certain point of what we can do, where some of these guidelines were very adopted early on in a prophylactic way, right, where now we can be more narrow and be more specific, and not kind of fool ourselves, frankly, that the kids aren't hanging out and going to other camps, you know what I'm saying, and that's ultimately what I think it's about.
Yeah.
And my concern is the people who, I'm sorry. The people who are running it have to take responsibility. That's why I was curious about a contract that say they've got skin in the game. So now we have more leverage in them. They're gonna really care for the kids rather than say, okay, do what you wanna do. I'm sorry, Mark.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, I just took a quick peek and it looks like the most recent CDC guidelines were updated as of May 28th. And we know that, since then, we have a lot of large states that have, relaxed their mandates completely. So I would imagine that there would be an update probably before we get to the August timeframe, especially with camp
I
season.
think the last one that we got was what may have been the first week of June 9th sticks in my head for some reason.
Yeah.
But even at that, it's a while back. Things have changed dramatically, in the last couple of weeks.
And the guidelines intermingle indoor and outdoor. I mean, a lot of the camp stuff that's directed in the guidelines actually are addressing a summer camp.
Sleeping
where
camp.
Kid sleeps over and the whole bit, so it's really hard to pick out what they're trying to accomplish.
This is all outside, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the whole camp is outside, which science says that there's very little transmission outside, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so I mean, I don't know if we're allowed to defer it down, but if we can just defer it, I mean, the REC, and the mayor can work to develop some, processes in place that are sufficient. I mean, I'm not really married to the guidelines, as that's the, the Bible of this, but I think we should just use, reasonable, prudent ways to just make sure the event is safe.
I would present the guidelines to the RAC.
That's what I'm saying, yeah, work with them and see, what, they may have some ideas in place. They've done this a couple times, so they may be able to,
They wanna do it.
yeah, and then, they can build a plan that, is reasonable and safe, and ultimately, Mayor and Jeff can take a look and say, hey, this is not gonna work, or this, this is a free-for-all. But I don't think we should kid ourselves that all these kids are going to camp also everywhere else, so.
They're playing sports and
Yeah.
they're in close proximity and they're coughing and running and breathing and sweating. All the good sports stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what kids should do.
That's what they
So
do.
is that enough guidance, Jeff, to,
Yeah, I think so.
okay. don't wanna leave you, okay, awesome, great. Great, next up we have the American Rescue Plan Act.
There's no action that needs to be taken. We need to submit an application by the end of the week. It doesn't bind us on how we commit the money at this point. And in fact, the second paragraph where I talk about the loss of revenue, the way they're calculating the loss of revenue, we would make out significantly better if that's what we want to do. They took a completely different direction on it. That's much more in our favor. But essentially, what we'll be getting is two payments of $863,096 over 2 years. It'll be two payments for a total of $1,726,193. And the way they calculate the revenue drop is that there is an $800,000 revenue drop. I don't see an $800,000 revenue drop. But,
For us?
We'll submit the paperwork so that, and then when that they establish the dollar, actually have it available for us, we'll come back to council and discuss how you want to spend it. And the two areas that look like they fit for Delran is a revenue drop if you want to put some of it back in revenue, and the other one is for infrastructure on sewer. I know we talked about that briefly, as we have Route 130 project where the sanitary sewer line needs to be replaced, and it's a fairly significant cost. This would go a long way towards paying for that, and that's an approved use of the funds. Yeah. There are a lot of things that people have in their minds that they'd like to spend the money on that you can't use it just to reduce taxes and things along those lines. It has to be tied into what's taken place over the last year or so with respect to COVID. So.
It's not.
But we'll come back to you on that issue.
Yeah, it's not a rebate program for the residents, but I know we have, ultimately we have a, $4 million potential sewer liability project we have to get on Route 130. So, we've talked about it before. I think this is an appropriate spot for that money. All right, and. All right, great. Next up, we have.
You all right, Virginia?
Just a local.
It's an updated proposal for a new fee schedule, construction code office.
Oh, thank you.
Introduce you to our construction code official, Bill Luneman. And he's been working on this, did a nice job, and let him have the table of the floor.
All right, floor is yours.
Okay, the fee schedule that is enacted right now, the state actually did away with that back in 2016. It's old. The fees were taking up to what it is in 420 right now, which is the UCC. That's their fee schedule. And this is really aimed at the construction of new homes we raise, and it's solar, which is minimal effects to the residents is where we try to go with this. Because new construction, most of the prototypes, they're going to get 20% discounts on permit fees. So I tried to make up for that 20%, so they're paying a full fee, which will not affect the price of the house being sold, obviously. Most of the solar being installed is leases. It won't affect the lease price. So it's really where I tried to go with it. We tried to bring the prices up to where they are most of the townships around us and the state. And I tried to correct fees for the new construction so that obviously they're paying their fair share.
It makes a lot of sense. So these numbers that are written blue, that's your handwriting, Jeff?
Yeah, those were the old ones, just so you can see.
Okay.
So, I don't know if you saw them, but, so Jeff was giving council and myself kind of
There's an
an acknowledgement of what it was and what the change was. I think, Bill, that our biggest concern is that these fee increases not be directed at the residents, but at the new construction and the big companies that are, so, you mentioned solar. So, the impact on that, is there like a threshold where it starts to become more expensive? What I'm thinking is, I put solar panels on my house. The fees are gonna be what the fees are gonna be. But if I'm putting them on a warehouse and I'm doing, I don't know, what's it, a megawatt or whatever that
Yes.
is? You would know what that is.
Utility guy.
Power, utility. We just go with he's a utility guy, all right? So just tell us a little bit about, I just wanna make sure that that we're not saying, okay, we're gonna raise the fees for the residents and they're gonna take a hit on, a home remodel.
Well, some of them will be for residents, I guess.
But
The minimum fees here, we're bringing them up to what the state guidelines are right now. If you look at solar, I did create a megawatt fee,
Bill,
which
I'm
is
sorry, where's that at and what number
the
subsection?
solar section is on page 5. In the middle of the page,
I think
it would
it's
be
M.
L or M,
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
N,
M as in Mary.
Okay.
Yeah.
A megawatt is really, you're never gonna see it on a house unless they really get better. You're gonna see that on an Amazon. You're gonna see it on a really big building. And the way it was priced now, we were pricing it like $500 and something, and they could put up a 5 megawatt system. So what we're doing now is for each megawatt, we would charge $1,000, which there's a lot of time spent in these inspections, doing this. And it's the big warehouses that would pay. The normal homeowner, you're looking at a 7 to 15 kVA system. That's the normal, which is really not a lot of power. And the fees are, you're looking at a $100 fee. So it's really, there's a big difference.
so what you said in English is somewhere around 50 kilowatts?
Well, it's
50
1 to
watt.
50 kilowatts.
Okay,
So between 1 and all your residential are gonna fall in number 1.
okay.
This gentleman would know that. There's really nobody with any more than that on their residential house.
Gotcha. So the whole purpose is you're really trying to these larger companies are coming in and developing the township. They're going to be the ones taking the most of this burden on.
Correct. And with new construction of all the new homes, we have what they call a prototype, where they come in, they give us a set of plans. You only review the plan once because they're building the same house.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to give them a 20% discount on every other house. So we move the fees around to try to make that so they're paying the 100% and not at 80%.
Okay.
Kind of.
Good.
So just quick clarifying question. You mentioned solar. So if someone's doing solar and like battery storage, would that be all in the same kind of a application, or would that be separate?
Well, battery storage is separate from the solar. They're two different things. We do see some of the Tesla systems where they're putting the batteries inside. I think Panasonic makes them as well. But it's very limited and then it's small. You're only talking normally a 13. Yeah, that's all. We're not talking about anything big because you can't actually put more than 10 of them in a row.
Okay. All right. So I'm just curious. So if a homeowner wanted to put in a Tesla system, for instance, they're going to pay one for the solar, one for the battery storage.
Yes, but that's actually feed under, the battery storage is actually feed under like a motor control,
Okay.
which is really not going up
All right.
a whole lot.
Gotcha. Good.
So I have no idea what you said.
Well,
The two of you seem very satisfied with the conversation, so I agree. I was thinking that. It's a 13, no more than 13.
One overview on this too is obviously we haven't had a lot of growth in the last 10 years up until what we're seeing now. And construction code office is essentially supposed to pay for itself. It has not with the current fee structure. So, and there's been a lot of work that Bill put into putting this together. It should be paying for itself so that the regular taxpayer, the normal taxpayer who's not doing a project, isn't paying for somebody else's project.
That makes sense. The only question I had was there's Jeff's comment about conflicting provisions in the front. Is that,
What was it?
you said conflicting question mark, H1 and 3. It's on page 1 or page 2. Is that what that says, right?
There was something to say conflicting. Yeah, it's page 2.
Garden type
section-
sheds versus
Oh,
non-garden type.
I'm sorry, he explained that. to me.
Okay,
Yeah.
I believe you. If it's worked out, I
We
believe you.
took away garden type sheds that were 100 to 200 square feet because the state changed the rules 2 years ago that we don't need a permit.
Oh, okay,
So that went away. We removed it.
gotcha.
Yeah, after I made the note, he explained it to me. I didn't have an
Good,
issue with it.
okay.
so.
That's the only thing that jumped out to me, but I think everything else makes sense, right? To bring it in, command to the current state standard, and adjust the fees so the people who are paying, using the services pay for the services, and nobody else pays for that, and we can pass the burden on to the big developers.
What's the, we obviously have some construction nearby. I won't, across the street. So what is the time, when did they start to apply for building permits? Are they already doing that, or?
They haven't yet.
They have not.
They're
The
saying they
site
wanna
work's
do it in the
got
fall,
problems.
they want to pull the permit in the fall.
So we would need to get, council would need to do this as
Yeah, you're
quickly
gonna
as
have,
possible.
you have still have half a Stellwag, you have this one, you have Home Depot site, and then you have, what's his name just started, the golf course, they just started, Deer Horse just started, so
Right.
they're all gonna be put in for permits by the end of the year, so.
Well, good timing.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, you wanna make sure it's good.
Yeah.
Soon.
Great, so Sal, you would draft
Do you
this?
want
and-
us to do it? We're happy to
right,
take-
it's
yeah,
a-
I don't wanna step on anyone's toes, but we're.
Is this how?
I mean, I think it's drafted. I think
Right.
I'll
I thought it was
send,
already drafted.
Yeah.
I mean, it follows
Yeah.
the previous form.
yeah.
Right, we're just changing.
So we'll
the
As long
just,
as Sal's
right,
comfortable with
it
it.
just has
Okay.
to, I'll send it to you again. I don't know if you already did, but I don't know if it's easier to just do like a repeal and replace. Because some of the numbers I was looking at might be like the letters, and I don't know. There's like, because you're removing one, and so maybe it's better if we just
Yeah,
repeal and
repeal and
replace.
replace,
So
yeah.
I'll send it to you, and if you need to
You'd
make
have to
any
reserve
changes.
it.
Let's do it that way.
Is that-
I think
Otherwise,
it's
we're cutting a
easier,
par- yeah, we're
right,
cutting a
it's
paragraph
like,
here,
because
adding
you
a paragraph
deleted
here.
one and then it moved that. I just don't, I wanna make sure we
Right.
get them all in right.
Alright.
So that's something we can have for next meeting, or is
Yeah.
that too quick
No,
of a
because it's
turnaround?
2 weeks, it's 2 weeks away
Okay.
from tonight, next meeting,
Yeah.
July 5th?
6th.
Sixth, yeah, that Tuesday.
Great, that's a busy meeting too.
Yeah,
That's okay.
well, that's all right.
Great.
That'd be a
Okay.
quick vote.
First reading.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
It's first reading, so
Yeah.
we'll do a repeal and replace because we'll renumber. Yeah.
Nice
Okay.
okay.
All right, Bill, nice meeting you. Thank you
We'll
very
do what
much.
we can to delay all
Thank you.
building permit
Thank you.
applications.
Yes.
for a month.
I'll call you tomorrow about that other.
Jeff, I'm just noticed outside the fire truck just drove
Yeah,
by,
just
and
pulled
there
up.
were some firemen running behind it. I'm just- They weren't in full gear, so that's good.
All right,
I'm
so
not nervous.
James,
Save it on gas.
Saving on.
We should
whatever we
actually,
can.
next meeting, when they come up and do their thing.
yeah. All right, great. So Jamie and Sal will work on that.
Yeah.
Last but not least is our friends at King's Grant. Is that what we're calling Kings at Delran?
Kings at Delran.
Yeah, that's-
Grant,
that's not
Kings
good.
at Delran. Jim, I'm gonna ask you just give us a quick summary for the record, but everyone has read the report from Jim, and he's recommending, ultimately it's a policy decision for council, but we gotta make a decision tonight, right?
Well, no, I mean, so the property owner, also known as Kings at Delran, they own a property on Hartford Road right outside, right near the border of Morristown. And they want to develop their property with about 34 age-restricted single homes, detached. So it's 35 lots with a new road. They did apply to the land use, the zoning board of adjustment, and got a use variance to increase their density above what the zone allows. The site is currently mapped in a septic system only zone. So in order for them to get public sewer service of development, they would have to apply to the DEP through the county to change the countywide wastewater management plan. And then in order to do that too, they would need your full support and endorsement of that application. So we looked at their request. There's some issues there that we're concerned with. Number one, the engineering for it, it looks like you would need a pump station. They could get a gravity system if they connected through Timber Ridge, through the Willowbrook Country Club, but they would have to negotiate with Deer Horton with that right now, who just started construction. And they would have to amend their system, amend their maps, put in new easements, and make a stub out for them. I don't know if they want to, we've asked them, we told them from the get-go that's the ideal situation. If they wanted to do that, then this council might would likely be more supportive of it. A pump station looks like what it would need. Well, you would need a pump station to serve it now without having that connection. And for 34 lots, the use of a pump station is just not, something we would recommend the council go forward with. All that being said, right now we're pretty close to capacity at our treatment plant. We have a lot of construction ongoing right now. We still have a couple undeveloped lots where there's an application for that site behind Walgreens right now at the zoning board. Amazon is building right now. They're going to be increasing their flow demand. There are still a couple empty lots over in that industrial park, and there's infill lots all over the place. So I would, just from the capacity concerns right now, before we start expanding the system where we weren't anticipating, we just table the matter and let these developments build out, see where we're at with sewer, and in the future. And if this property owner still is committed to wanting to put in a public system, we entertain it in the future. Otherwise, septic systems are certainly viable options for their development. That's what it's meant for. People put in septic systems all over the state, especially in the southern half of the state. So it's not like you're shutting the door on them from being able to develop their property.
Yeah.
They have that option. They were told from the get-go that this site's under septic, and that if it was a pump station, it would likely not be supported by the governing body based on our recommendation. So even if they do throw out HOA out there, homeowners association, we just don't. That'd be new to this town. We don't have any of our pump stations. In Summer Hills, pump stations are the townships, and there are how many lots there? 1,000 homes. So I would just recommend you table it for now. Wait to see. This developer really hasn't put anything forward to us showing how they sewer the property. What they want to do is just go and get the site added into the sewer maps and the sewer plan, and then come back later on to tell you how they're actually going to do it. And that's just not the procedure I think we should go forward with right now. So the engineering standpoint, I don't think from the way to get it sewered is in your best interest, and we need more time to make sure that we have the capacity to serve everywhere that it is currently part of the sewer plan.
Great, so are you recommending we table, or should we give them a definitive answer? Because these guys are jumping into our council meetings wanting answers. Right, Sal, did you speak to them the other?
Their council called me, yeah.
Yeah, so they're, frankly, you laid out here, the capacity issue, which that's why we rely on engineers, because we don't know that. And then second, though, I think from a policy standpoint, the HOA managing a pump station, in my mind, is frankly pretty ludicrous for an HOA with 35 units. If you have, 20 years from now, if that pump station has an issue that costs $500,000 to repair, that 35 units of the HOA would have to come up with that money, right? It's just.
And it's senior housing too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And they'll be paying the same rates as everybody else. So
yeah, so it's just, that's not how any of them are done in town. I think it's a bad way to do it. Even if we say, okay, great, the HOA will handle it, 20 years from now, we won't be here, but somebody else, they're going to go to the township, hey, we have a pump station that's broken, we only have $100,000, you guys need to fix it, right? So it's going to come back to the residents. So I just think it's a bad idea.
Has you have conflicts? You have a conflict about that pumping station later, now who's the responsible? I think we should own the pumping station. They should pay for it.
Yeah.
That's the end of it.
Yeah. So, so, can you tell them? I don't want this guy keep coming back every three meetings.
To them. You got a professional engineer that's the recommendation of your professional.
Yeah, they can build septic tomorrow if they want. Based on my understanding, they go back, get site plan approval. And
the answer is basically no.
The answer is no.
And then possibly in a couple of years, we can re-entertain it, but you're still not going to get over the pump station issue.
Yeah, right. I'm seeing everybody nod.
We won't have an answer on the capacity issue for at least 2 years. Because that's how long it's going to take probably everything to build out.
Okay. And during those 2 years, they can negotiate with Timber Ridge?
Sure. Yeah. Reach.
If they spent their time doing that, they may have had sewer there. Okay, everybody.
Excuse me for a second.
Go ahead.
If they do negotiate with Ordinance to tie in, don't they have to still get approval from us?
Yes.
Still a capacity issue.
There's still a
It's
capacity.
just how it gets there.
Right. Yeah.
And
Takes
Horton-
one, they
Horton may have to go back to planning.
Yes.
And Horton, which is a big development, that's the Willowbrook.
Yeah.
They would, that was years ago, I was the planning board solicitor when it came for the first time. They would have to go back to planning board because they're modifying.
They would have to modify their subdivision plats in some form or fashion in order to have some private easements or public easements through certain lots and properties in order to run a sewer main
Yeah.
to meet this property border.
It's an uphill.
Plus, supposedly this happened, we need to go to DEP for a special permit for actually just piping it through there too, which I think they're trying to avoid, but that's
Especially
not our fault.
competitors, which, what much to say.
Yeah. What's the benefit for them to do
But
it?
regardless, I think that, I have to support Jim's,
Probably a professional recommendation.
Great, so Sal, you'll let them know,
I'll do that.
councils?
Yep.
Great. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Jim. Good work with that. I know that was a long time coming, so. Great. All right, at this time we'll have reports. First up, our clerk, Jamie Eggers. Jamie?
I have no report.
No report, thank you. Next up, our administrator, Jeff Hatcher. Jeff?
Just one item, I did receive a phone call from the representative of the state planning office concerning the Route 130 corridor plan, that we're supposed to be moving along, reviewing. And she indicated that they want to see the towns move along, and said that we can do the resolution while we're doing it, rather than wait till it's done, and then that will keep them meeting some of their guidelines. And the other recommendation she made, or at least put it out there, is that you could name your green team as the group that's working, reviewing it, and that they would get credits towards possibly moving up to the platinum level. I don't know if you want to do that, but it's an issue that, I don't know if you want to address.
Who's addressing it now?
Right now, it's not being, we need to move on it.
Because I remember was looking at the notes before, we have, there's some stuff in there that says that we have a sewer authority still, some of the stuff is pretty outdated, right? Is it the same report?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we can do that in-house. The problem is that it had a number of items that needed to have hearings. Is the problem is where you want those to happen and where you want them to go. In terms of addressing some of the issues like you're talking about, we can do that in-house and not be an issue.
So we can either appoint a committee that handles this, council can do it, the green team. Do we know if the green team is going to get platinum? I know the tree ordinance, which Sal's office is working on, is a huge step in that direction.
I mean, I can touch base with them if that's even an avenue you want me. They just threw that out there as that would get them extra points. They didn't know where, they knew our green team was at bronze and said that might get them up some. And, I can start working on the items that need to be updated if you want me to do that. It's just the problem is at some points there's got to be a group that actually reviews it with public hearings. And it's not going to be something that there's going to be a whole lot of interest in, to be quite frank with you. It's pretty generic.
I mean, would just spitballing, would the planning board be inappropriate? Are they allowed to review it? I mean,
Well, they cite members, different groups that they'd like to have in, but it seems like it's like an ad hoc group.
so we can't say planning board do this.
I'll go back and look and see.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, that's where the planners and the engineers are, and you guys do the master plan, right? So I mean, but if they want something separate,
We need to do something with.
yeah.
Combination kind of thing, maybe some people from planning, some people from green team.
That's basically what they're looking for is, citizens, somebody from a planning board, things along those lines. They were looking for a little bit of different groups. But the thing she did say is that you could do the resolution short of doing the plan, updating the plan and do it while, saying this is who we have going to look at it, but you could do the resolution and then that would keep them meeting their timelines, because I guess they're getting served. A lot of the towns aren't.
Yeah, I mean, we can do that pretty quick at our next meeting.
All right, I'll start putting some of that together.
Yeah, maybe we'll think about some people we can put on the ad hoc. I mean, I think I'd like for the green team to get some of the credit, but they're pretty taxed doing what they do to begin with, so I don't know if they may.
But I think it's a little outside their bailiwick.
Yeah, but I mean, if there's a way we can loop them in, if they can have if there's a certain number of green team members that are on this ad hoc committee, that they can still get the credits. I mean, if we can somehow figure that out.
I'll start working through it and then reach out to you guys to
put together
one who seems appropriate to put on that group.
Yeah, but I think as the mayor mentioned, maybe it's some members of the green team, a couple planning, zoning, a couple members from here, some citizens groups, maybe some churches and things, and people who are engaged to take a look at it. Some businesses along Route 130. So if you could just get back to us on that, we can definitely, you just remind us about that.
That's all I had.
Great. Next up, we have a report from our mayor, Mayor Catcherman.
I have no report this evening.
Great.
Even Jamie smiled.
The green team making some points, right?
Wait till next month.
No way.
No way.
I do not, although I do say if the green team goes to platinum, I think they get food comes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Well, sorry, it's an inside casino joke.
All right, great. Next, we have our solicitor.
No report, Mr. President.
Sal. Thank you, Sal. Next up, our engineer from CMA and Associates, Jim Winkowski. Jim?
No, I just want to report that, the road program for the 2020-2021 road program will be advertising soon. We're looking to receive bids mid-July and then have that awarded at the August 3rd meeting. There's a public meeting that night, that's first Tuesday in August. That and then the community park improvements and the traffic calming as well.
Great. Community park improvements are the,
That parking lot expansion.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. All right. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it. Next up, we have reports from members of councils. First up, we have Councilwoman Virginia Pareo.
Yeah, real quick, I just wanted to congratulate the Delran High School class of 2021. They graduated on Friday, and best wishes to all the graduates. That's it. Thank you.
Next up, we have Councilman Marlo Smith.
Yes, I'd just like to second that, and also being as though I had a graduate of Delran Middle School, I'd also like to give a shout out to all the graduates of Delran Middle School.
Congratulations. Next up, Councilman Lynn Jennings.
I'll echo the congratulations to the middle school, high school graduates. It's a wonderful thing. I'd also like to say we very much enjoyed, along with Council President and Councilman Smith, induction ceremony for Eagle Scouts for Troop 25. And the reason I mention it is because Troop 25, I don't know how many Eagle Scouts they've promoted, but I know of at least 10. And that is a significant achievement for any young man. And I compliment the troop leaders. A lot of those leaders have been there for a long, long time. And it was a very, very impressive ceremony. And when you listen to the young men speak, you could tell they were a step above their peers. Secondly, also I'd like to say I appreciate it very much being with the mayor and Ms. Parejo, Councilman Parejo, at the ceremony for the police department. They awarding the officers awards for the yearly performance, for saving people's lives, for doing special things. And then the mayor for his first, the mayor's award to a policeman for fine performance. It was really impressive, and our police need to know that we support them 100%. And there are many, many, many more people who are very positive about our police than there are the people who like to be detractors. So it was a special afternoon. That's all I have.
Thank you. I have no report for this evening. So with that, I'll ask for a motion to open the floor to public comment.
I'll make a motion.
And a second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the motion carries. The floor is now open to public comment. For the three folks in the room, any of you have any public comment or questions?
Put the heat on.
That I can't do.
Yes, in November.
Thank you.
No problem, thank you. With that, I'll ask for a motion to close the floor, please.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion carries. Our floor is now closed.
I would be remiss if I didn't mention that my daughter Rose graduated from high school Monday. From
Congratulations.
BCIT
Congratulations.
in information technology, and I in my zeal to want to have no report, I almost left that out. God
I
forbid.
couldn't have a meeting without.
Congratulations, Rose.
Congratulations to all. Yep, absolutely.
That's great.
Great, thanks. So at this time, we have to go into an executive session. So I'll ask for a motion to approve Resolution 2021-114, authorizing executive session to discuss negotiations for non-union employees. Can you get a
Motion.
I'll second.
And Jamie, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Jenny?
Aye.
Ms. Pareo?
Aye.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye. The motion carries, the resolution passed. We will now go into executive session. If we do make action, it will be back in public, so we'll be back shortly. Thank you.
I'm gonna get warm.
I was gonna say, it's 20 degrees warmer outside.
Appreciate it.
My wife would literally freeze. She'd be like,
I am
I could-
freezing right now.